So the Cougars beat Wyoming 34-14. Jake Retzlaff, 22 of 36, one interception on that opening drive, 291 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was the leading rusher, 6 carries for 62. It was a good night for Jake.
Yeah, he played really well, and he made some great plays. The pick he threw was just an underthrown ball. The ones we wanted him to eliminate is those of us that are paying attention to that quarterback spot are the really bad decision throws, which he had a couple the week before. That wasn't a bad decision throw. He had Darius Laster in a position where if he throws it high and outside to the back pylon, he's got a chance to make a play. Just underthrown. I can live with those, right? I think we can all live with those. And for the most part, he took care of the ball.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And he threw to Chase Roberts.
Yeah. I thought he was much better. He had a few throws early that were off the mark, but you know what? He's a young and up-and-comer. I remember Steve Sarkisian as a JC transfer in his first season, and we were going, oh, man. But then his senior season, remember, Jake is a junior as well. Sark was money. So Chase Roberts, we said he needed to be targeted more. He was targeted 8 times. He had 6 receptions for 129 yards. Yes, I like that.
Yeah,
that's what
good.
You do.
Good news. Keelan Marion had a 100-yard kickoff return. Officially, it was actually 102 because he started there. And it was funny because as we sat in the green room with our game day crew watching it, and I wrote an article about it in the paper today, because his previous 4 returns were 24, 17, 12, and 16. So you put your knee down in the end zone, you go to the 25. So
right.
the last 4 were that, dating back into the SMU game. And I remember we were sitting there, and I said, I do not, just down it, don't come out.
Yeah,
out loud,
you were saying that when we were watching it.
He came out, and he went all the way, and then there's a fun little story in there, a conversation he had with Kalani at halftime, and Keelan's one of the greatest personalities on the entire team. He was on our post-game show, and he's just a happy-go-lucky kid. He was on our show during the summer.
We had Keelan sitting right here, and he just brings energy to every room that he walks into.
Yeah. And
brings
that return,
energy to the field.
I don't care who you were and where you were watching that. That return had everything with okay. Yes. Oh, what a great! I told you he could do it.
So Austin Collie, who returned kicks early in his career at BYU, and then returned kicks in the NFL. People forget about that. He said to us after the return, he goes, there, now he's going to be better. And we said, why? And he said, the light bulb is going to go on. He goes, it takes one return when you catch the ball and you hit the seam without hesitation and you go full speed for you to realize that the faster downhill you're running, the less chance you have of getting hit hard and the better chance you have of taking it to the house. Austin says the big hits come when you hesitate and you stop your feet and try to make a move. He said when you're running full speed downhill, the guys on the cover team have to break down to tackle you. And it changes the way they approach you. You're less likely to get hit violently running full speed downhill. And he goes, you know what? Keelan will go watch the film. He will realize it now. It takes that one time when you do it. And he goes, you watch how much better he is moving forward. I thought, okay, wow, that's from somebody that has done that job in the NFL. So I'm going to take that for what it's worth and believe it and hope that we see Keelan Marion much better moving forward.
It gives Kansas State one more thing to worry about.
Exactly.
Daniel from Blaine, Minnesota on the live stream tonight. Raider Damuni had 4 solo tackles. It was good to see him.
Yeah, we're watching a star before our eyes bloom at strong safety. Coaching staff knows that too. From a pure physical standpoint, he is very gifted. He is big. He's very fast. He's got great reactions. He's got quick feet. He's very physical. Hasn't been healthy. Now he's been healthy finally for like 4 straight weeks. But as he's learning this defense, he's playing more and more every game. And Raider Damuni has the ability to be a first-team All-Big 12 guy multiple years at that position.
Fantastic. Game day will be live at LaVell Edwards Stadium Saturday night, 2 hours before kickoff to cover all of the festivities. Before we get to Kansas State, let's jump quickly through what we liked, what we didn't, and your keys that you rolled out last week for beating the Cowboys. And one thing we liked from Retzlaff is he had 23 targets to Roberts, Lassiter, and Hill combined.
And we talked about that going into the game. So that's, I think you already know we're going to give them a check mark or a plus for getting the ball to playmakers in space, which they did, especially with their top 2 running backs and then their third running back getting nicked up early in the game. So only 1 turnover on offense, that pick early in the game. We liked that. We liked that the Cowboys averaged 2.3 yards a carry. 33 carries for 77 yards.
Yeah.
You hold team under 100 yards and under 3 yards a carry. That's a great defensive effort against the run.
Evan Johnson looked like Deion Sanders, number 21, with 21. That spectacular interception. That defensive secondary is deep. They're playing 6-7 guys, and so they're all getting experience. And BYU has been very tough. They're one of the only few schools left that haven't given up a passing touchdown this season.
Yeah, that back end is good and deep, and I love that they are confident enough that they're trusting these young guys. They're even playing freshmen back there, and not in mop-up, in critical times in the game, especially when they know it's not going to be complicated. They'll put those young bucks out there that they know are great in man coverage and have blazing speed, and call man-to-man defense and just say, you the nickel, go take the slot and cover him man-to-man. And guys like Jonathan Cabea and Trey Alexander, like these freshmen, Tommy Prassis at free safety, DeMoody's a sophomore, but they're putting these guys in the game in critical times, and they're trusting them to lock down receivers, and they're doing a great job. Not only is that great for now, but the future is really, really bright in the secondary for BYU.
Our Cougar Board question of the week, we're going to throw it in right here because there's a couple of points we want to make. If you're not familiar with Cougar Board, it's the largest online community of BYU fans, thousands of posts every day. And this question comes from Skal, one of their insider subscribers. What were your impressions of Gary Bohannon based on limited reps he got? If anything were to happen to Jake, how ready is Gary? Also, why did it take so long for coaches to put Gary in? I bring that up because on our What We liked the fact that he got in and he ran the offense a little bit, threw some passes, made his first completion in 700 days back before he hurt his shoulder at South Florida, which was huge. But now let's address that question.
Yeah, I would love to have seen him in a series earlier. I do like that very first series they put him in. For the first half of that series, they left him in with the ones. And anybody that's been a backup quarterback, when you get into a game, especially the first game of the year as a backup, you just hope and pray that they'll send you out there and let you go in there with the ones for a little bit. Yeah. The first line especially, and the receivers, so that you can get a taste of what it's like to be out there with them in case you have to get in a critical time in a game when you're coming off the bench. And so I liked that. And then they brought guys in as that drive progressed. I would have liked to have seen them in the drive before. I agree with that. It just didn't work out because they put a bunch of 3s and 4s in on defense, and Wyoming had a long time consuming drive, remember? And BYU just shut them down. Remember, that last Wyoming drive was 75 yards. Yeah. They were under 200 yards of total offense before that drive. You know what, though? Kalani's philosophy is, no, I need to play these kids. These kids need experience. At this point in the game, I don't care about point spread. I don't care. What I care about is getting guys experience. And I think that cut short a little bit Gary's ability to play more plays. And I do like that they let him throw a couple of balls. Yeah. And he looked good. I think he's fine. He got a ton of reps in spring, during the summer. He's a leader on this team. I think if Jake gets hurt, Gary's ready to go. I think they changed the emphasis on the offense a little bit because he's phenomenal in the run game, like quarterback power, quarterback counter, the RPO. I think you would see a little bit more of that, and I think BYU would be fine if he played.
And look, if Jake's going to be allowed to run around like he is in this league, he's going to get knocked out. And so you got to have another guy ready.
Well, and the only reason you let Jake run around like that is because you're confident that your next guy can go. Yeah. That you've got 2 of them.
And Jake has to run around, it seems, to get into his thing.
Doesn't he seem like once he gets knocked around and runs a little bit, does it not seem like he calms down?
Yeah.
Then he just starts to make plays?
We're going to ask Gifford Nielsen if he needed to get knocked around.
I don't think Giff needed to get knocked around. I think Giff came ready.
Thank you for watching The Wise Guy.
If you like what you're watching, you can help us out by subscribing and hitting that notification button.
What we didn't like, there were a lot of missed throws, especially early on, where we were like, hey, those were big, and it was just a matter of setting your feet and throwing.
Yeah, like a hitch screen has got to be, like, unless the guy drops it, it just should be an automatic. It should be 98% success rate. You just take the snap and throw it out there like you're playing catch. The receiver's not even moving. You got to complete those. You can't throw that into the ground. I think a little bit of nerves early on, on the road. And once he settled in, then he became much more accurate. But we noted a theme when his accuracy is off, which is only two or three times in that game, maybe 3 or 4 times. It's when his feet are parallel and he's not like standing tall and striding out and keeping his fundamentals sound. When his fundamentals are good and he sets his feet, he's pretty accurate. So We need him to, you can't really think about your feet. That's got to be natural, but you can watch on film and go, oh yeah, I need to remember to stay calm in the pocket and keep my feet calm and stride and do all of that.
And, he's going to be jacked up with Kansas State's defense out there
in that
full
arena,
house.
In that stadium with it, yeah.
So we'll see, what they do to calm him down.
We'd like to see him on the easy throws be a little more accurate early.
Nate from St. George on the live stream. Hey, Nate. 2 of 11 on third down, 3 of 3 on fourth down.
Yeah, so combined, and Aaron looks at it combined, A-Rod, that's 5 of 14, 36%. Against Wyoming, we said last week, we felt against that defense, we would be happy if they were mid-40s. We felt like it should be 45 against Wyoming. So that's a little bit less than I would have liked against that defense.
9 penalties for 80 yards. We didn't like that either.
Nope, didn't like that at all.
So Blaine's 3 keys going into the game to beat Wyoming. So we say a lot of things on this show, and then we like to have some accountability
exactly.
on this show. So it's Giff sitting just a few feet away from us. What Giff says, we'll be revisiting next week.
Oh, yeah. We'll see.
Not to put any undue pressure on
and by the way, Giff, this doesn't mean I said they were going to do this. I said this would be a key to success, right?
All right.
That's all we're asking.
Key number 1 was to be disruptive on defense. You wanted 8.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks or more, and 2 turnovers. What you got were 4 TFLs, 1 sack, and 1 turnover. So that was that.
And so they didn't hit that. That's why they didn't win 45. Right.
Key number 2 is take care of the ball.
I will say they were very stingy, though.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, when you take away the 75 yards on the last drive, I mean, they really shut this Wyoming offense down. So I'm not disappointed in the defense. They just weren't quite as disruptive.
They took care of the ball, just the 1 turnover.
Yeah, 1 turnover. I like to see 0 turnovers, but one is okay, especially if they give up 1.
And then you said feed the talent. Roberts had 8 targets, Lassiter had 9, and Hill had 6.
Yep, there you go. I'm giving them a check on that.
So those are 2 of 1.
Yeah,
2 and 1 right
2
there.
and 1. That's not too bad.
BYU stats as we sit on this Monday here on Wise Guys.
This is nationally.
They're 4th in pass efficiency defense.
How about that?
13th in total defense, 18th in passing yards allowed per game, and then 39th in total offense. All those numbers are so much better than last year.
They were 100 and something on every offensive category, and they were maybe top 60 in some of the defensive categories. And we knew they'd take a leap forward on defense, but that's a monster leap on offense. And keep in mind, they played SMU on the road 2 weeks ago. SMU was on a home winning streak where they were averaging 53 points a game and almost 500 yards of total offense.
Yeah.
And they had 9 returning starters. What they did at SMU, I expected them to shut Wyoming down. What they did at SMU was really impressive on the road.
Really curious to see what SMU does against TCU this week.
Because TCU's very good defensively, so let's see what happens.
Here comes Kansas State. They're number 13 in the new poll. They're 3-0. Beat number 20 Arizona Friday night, 31-7.
They look good.
I was surprised at that final score. I thought Arizona would put up more of a fight.
Arizona's been one of the most, and they're ranked still, but I think everybody thought they'd compete for a league title. They're struggling with the physicality.
Yeah.
Like, they struggle with Kansas State's physicality. And keep in mind, the Pac-12, hate to say it, Utah fans, it's not a physical league, and it hasn't been. Utah's dominated that league because they just out-physical everybody. It's a skill league. Lots of great skill players, NFL skill players, but not real physical, not from week to week. There's a couple of physical teams. Washington was. Oregon State was last year. Utah always is. Stanford in their heyday was, but they've fallen off.
Yeah.
Every team in the Big 12 is physical, period.
It's going to be different.
Even the bad teams will knock you around. And Arizona really struggled with Kansas State's physicality.
And Utah played Baylor in a non-conference game. And their starting quarterback didn't even make it to halftime without being out with some kind of injury. It just happens. And these are different kind of teams.
Utah's used to handing the ball off and just gaping holes. And Baylor's picked to be in the bottom of the league. And Baylor, they didn't push Baylor around.
No.
And that's this league. It's like maybe you don't have this crazy, like Washington was a couple years, really, really high level, or USC with the talent they had. But there's so many good teams. There's so much more parity, and all of these teams play a physical brand of football.
What Kansas State does have is they've got Avery Johnson at quarterback, and he's legit. He can throw, he can run. He ran for 110 yards against Arizona, one of the difference makers in that game. He's thrown for 6 touchdowns and 1 pick. He is their offense.
He is very good, and he has BYU's attention. you remember the difference between BYU's defense in the first game when those guys hadn't shown really quarterback run game, and BYU didn't have a plan for it, and they just decided, they're not going to hurt us with that. They had a plan against SMU because SMU's quarterbacks are more similar to Kansas State's quarterback, Avery Johnson, where they're involved heavily in the run game, and BYU did a great job. So they're aware of him. I expect them to have a really good plan for him, but he is better than SMU's quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He is so good in the run game. He's a solid passer. He's the second leading rusher in terms of attempts. He averages 6.7 yards a carry. And they have a lot of design. They design a lot of stuff, not so much RPO stuff, but they do a lot of like quarterback counter, quarterback power. Like they just snap him the ball and he just runs it. So you got to be ready for quarterback run game. 28 carries for him. That's the next highest person on the team with carries is 15. So it's DJ Giddens, their great running back, who we're going to talk about.
He's averaging 6.6 yards a carry.
Yeah, and so to give you an idea, he's got 49 carries. He averages 108 yards a game. He's averaging over 100 yards a game. And then next is Avery Johnson at 28. Next guy on the team has 15. So their run game is all about DJ Giddens and Avery Johnson, and they're both really, really skilled.
John from Allen, Texas is on the live stream. He said, I was at the Cotton Bowl in 97. BYU beat Kansas State in that game. Do you think they can do it again on Saturday night? Hey, why not?
Absolutely.
Why not?
Yeah.
Alpine, Utah, also on the stream tonight. It is hopping. If you're listening, jump on there. Let us know where you're taking this in from as we span the globe. Kansas State, as we sit tonight, they're 21st in run defense. They're 92nd in pass efficiency defense. So they've given up a bunch of points. They needed a fumble return to beat Tulane on the road 2 weeks ago, and then they routed UT Martin out of the gate. But Las Vegas has them favored by 6.
Which, if you think about it, this is a highly ranked team. I feel like Kansas State's been the most consistent team in the Big 12 over the last 5 years, where they're just always right there near the top. Remember, they won the championship they won the championship game a couple of years ago when TCU went.
They're good. They're good.
Yeah, they have been consistently good. It's because they're very physical and aggressive defensively. And then offensively, they're dynamic. They have this great balance between run and pass, and they spread you out, and they're physical up front there too. This is a very good football team. And the one thing Tulane did was they got him with a bunch of quick pass game. And I loved that in last week's game, unlike the first two games, BYU came out and they established the quick pass game early. And that gave Wyoming some problems. I think you need to do the same thing, especially if you don't have L.J. Martin or Hinckley or Potty back. Against this Kansas State defense, you may just say, and back in the day when Giff was playing and I was playing after Giff, there would be times when we just go, we don't really even care if we're going to run this game. Let's just throw it 55 times. This may be one of those games.
It might be. It's going to be exciting. As you prepare your 3 keys for Kansas State, and Gifford Nielsen's going to join us here in just a couple of minutes. The weather forecast for Saturday, dark. It's going to be dark at 8:30. That's a good sign for BYU. The low temperature for the night's 49, so it'll be nice and cool. Perfect football weather under the lights. The uniforms are going to be the 1996 throwback jerseys, the same unis, only upgraded with better material, but the same unis they wore in the Cotton Bowl that year. White with the royal trim.
And then don't they have like black shadow on?
There's some black on there too.
It's
going to be awesome.
It's sharp. So.
Chad Lewis will tell us all about those. The series is tied 4-4, BYU and Kansas State. The Cougars are 0-4 in Manhattan. The Wildcats are 0-3 in Provo and 0-1 in Dallas. The last meeting in Provo, September 10th, 1977, BYU won 39-0. Do you know who the quarterback was in that game?
Oh, I know who it was. I even know what his numbers were.
He is our first guest tonight, and we'll bring him in just a sec. 3 keys to beating the Wildcats.
Yeah.
What are they? And we've got to document them.
So the first thing is, and I just mentioned it, so I gave it away, establish the quick pass game early on offense. So let Jake Retzlaff get into a rhythm with some quick throws that are easy throws and make that really physical Kansas State defense run to the sideline, run to the other side. Even if the throw is a 4-yard gain on first down, they still have to run that defense over to the sideline. Then you throw them to the other sideline, they got to run over there.
Okay.
You may be able to run the ball later on if you can establish that quick throw game early. And then Kansas State is so aggressive. If you complete some balls underneath, they start to creep up. They start to play tighter. They start to try to jump things. Then you can get some balls over the top. So quick pass game early.
Okay.
Second thing is you must account for the quarterback at all times. In the run game, you've got to understand that he's a vital part of the run game. He's got to be part of the key to stop. In the pass game, you've got to stay in rush lanes because they'll take off and hurt you with his feet. So account for the quarterback on every play. And when you arrive at the quarterback, you can't just lunge at this guy and try to have a knockout hit. You got to break down and make a tackle because he makes people miss. So don't get anxious when you get there. You don't have to knock his head off.
Yeah. You
just need to keep him contained. And then the last thing is win the turnover battle. You got to win the turnover margin battle if you're going to beat Kansas State. I'm okay if we're just +1. +1 or better, to me, translates to a win for BYU. Those are my 3 keys.
Okay, those are awesome. Vernal, Utah, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and Denver, Colorado hopping in on the stream tonight. It feels like everyone's checking in.
Yeah, I love it.
It's moving.
I love when Coeur d'Alene's in the house because that's such a beautiful place. Yeah. That golf course up there with a floating green, I have dreams of making a hole-in-one on that one. So,
hey, Tuesday night on After Further Review, we'll break down the Wyoming game. We'll show you what worked, what didn't. We'll also take an early look at Kansas State. AFR streams at 5 Mountain Time on the BYU TV app and ESPN+. It'll remain there so you can watch it as many times as you'd like. Saturday night on game day, we'll kick off 2 hours of pregame coverage starting at 6:30 Mountain Time. As I speak, Phoenix is on the stream tonight. West Phoenix. Good to have you guys with us. We'll be live in Cougar Canyon, just outside Lavelle Edwards Stadium, and then we'll move into the stadium from our broadcast perch and show all the warm-ups. That starts at 6:30. Kickoff is at 8:30 on ESPN. The live post-game show back on BYU TV as soon as it's over.